Hello everyone, welcome to today's story. It seemed that after the storms, Diep had finally found a safe harbor in James. But elsewhere, someone was quietly laying a trap. This time, it is no longer just misunderstanding. It is a deliberate attack. Today's episode will carry us through tender days, through tears wiped away by love, only to confront a new scheme, deeper, darker, more dangerous. Are you ready to walk forward with Diep and James? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your feelings. This journey is far from over, and I want to walk it with you, all the way to the end. Early morning. Sunlight filtered through the leaves, scattering sparkles across the eaves still damp with dew. The farm slowly stirred awake with the crow of the rooster, the ducks splashing in the pond, and the soft wind whispering through the old bamboo frame with a weary creak. Diep opened the door and stepped onto the porch. She froze when she saw James still there, lying on the old bamboo chair, head resting on his arm, eyes closed, his lashes casting faint shadows in the sun. She bent down gently, calling his name in a voice just above a whisper. James stirred. He opened his eyes. And in that moment, before his gaze, was Diep's face, backlit by the morning sun, her hair drifting softly in the breeze, her smile tender as the dawn mist, her clear eyes glowing with the familiar gentleness he knew so well. James's heart skipped a beat. Amid the clamor of the world, that instant felt like a whisper. You are exactly where you belong. He sat up, splashed his face with water, then met her into the garden. Diep carried a basket, a hat shading her face, her steps light along the grassy path. James walked behind, at first only meaning to see her off a little way, but found he couldn't stop. He wanted to go a bit farther, then farther still, as though each step pulled him deeper into the rare dream of peace he had just rediscovered. After the morning market, as the crowd began to thin, Diep quietly gathered a few clusters of lychees, choosing only the freshest and most beautiful. She picked them carefully, wiped each one clean, then wrapped them neatly in a coarse cloth bag, tying it with a small string. It was no grand gift, but a token of sincerity she wished to give James's mother, a woman who was slowly beginning to feel like the safe home she had long yearned for. The dirt road leading to her house was drenched in sunlight, beams filtering through the canopy above, dancing golden patterns across the ground. Diep walked slowly, cradling the bag of lychees against her chest, her heart as hesitant as the unspoken thoughts crowding her mind. Though she had been welcomed with warmth, there remained a quiet shyness within her, the restraint of someone long accustomed to shrinking inward, afraid to hope too much. The well-kept house appeared beyond a row of tall areca palms, their shades spreading cool and wide. The Odin door stood open, as though waiting. Diep stepped inside and was invited to sit at the familiar table in the living room. The faint scent of freshly cleaned floors, aged wood, and steeping tea filled the air, calming her spirit. There was order, quiet, and a soothing sense of care. The two women sat across from each other. James's mother radiated composure, her gaze clear and deep, the gaze of someone who had endured much and learned to see others with her heart. She did not probe nor judge. She simply listened, fully and patiently, to Diep's scattered words. About the market, about the season's fruit, about the small changes in her simple life. The more Diep spoke, the tighter her throat became. not because of anything specific, but because of a feeling she hadn't known in so long. The feeling of being listened to completely, without judgment. What she thought had turned to stone within her suddenly cracked, like thin ice under the sun. Old wounds of orphanhood, days of wandering, times of being misunderstood and cast aside, all of it stirred, a quiet current rising to the surface, and she broke into tears. James's mother said nothing, only pulled her into an embrace. She too had known loss, and in that way, she understood. Tears fell onto her knees, but they were not tears of despair. They were tears of a soul being unburdened, touched with gentleness, embraced with enoughness. In those arms, Diep no longer had to be strong. She was no longer just the orphaned girl with nowhere to belong. She was someone finally being received, with the simple love she had long craved, the love of a mother. Noon sunlight poured through the window, spilling golden light into the room soft as breath. And in that wordless moment, two women, unrelated by blood, touched one another through something sacred: empathy. Nearby, in a dim courtyard where light rarely reached, the concrete walls were mottled with damp, and the rusted bars crawled with moss. The air tasted of mildew and cigarette smoke, heavy as the mood of the man sitting there. John. He wore a tight black shirt, eyes hidden behind thick lenses, one hand gripping a stack of computer-printed pages. It was the most detailed dossier on James, his greatest rival in business. Across from John sat his trusted men, a younger man with a cap pulled low and a mask hiding his face. The two of them faced each other across a shaky wooden table. Inside John, hatred boiled. James, once scorned by John, had not only survived in the industry, but had overtaken him on several key projects. What stung John most was how the press now called James a young businessman with a humane vision. John, though born into power with a father as a major shareholder in many companies, was still dismissed as someone riding on other people's coattails. Rage made John slam the file down on the table. A glass teetered off the edge and shattered. He didn't care. A lethal glint sparked in his eyes as he spoke of the next move. A plan to destroy James's reputation, reawaken an old scandal, and hire forgers to smear his image with investors. Silent up until now, the father stepped out from the shadows, tall and thin, hair streaked with gray, his gaze razor-sharp. He did not shout or object. He only nodded once, then spoke in a low, even tone. As long as there are no traces left. This time, make it thorough. Those words closed the immediate discussion, but opened a door to darker plots. In that shabby dwelling, two powerful men were drawing up a scheme not merely to win in business, but to annihilate an entire life. Outside, a sliver of sunlight cut through the crack of the door and fell across John's face. A smile curling there, twisted by hatred. In the days that followed, time drifted by like a quiet stream. Diep continued her simple life in the peaceful countryside, taking her goods to market in the morning, tending the garden in the afternoon, and kindling the stove to cook in the evening. Each step she left on the narrow path, each warm call she made at the village market, carried the flavor of frugality, of a soul that had learned to find peace in small things. The wind rustled through the bamboo. wildflowers trembled at the roadside, and the sound of a cowbell echoed faintly through the twilight, all weaving together a world of her own, pure and strangely serene, where Diep could momentarily forget the storms that had once consumed her. But elsewhere, in a dim corner of a cafe, James sat as still as a statue. Before him, his phone screen glowed with suspicious headlines. His eyes were fixed, his hand clenched tight. The face once composed, now etched with unease. Never had fear loomed so large in him. James knew what John had done before was not the end, and that he would not stop. Every time he imagined Diep alone, left to face danger, his chest clenched as though gripped in a vice. He could not sit still any longer. While Diep believed she had found a small refuge to hide away, James understood that very peace could become the blind spot of danger. And so, he decided, he would not leave her there alone for another day. Even if she resisted leaving the land she loved, James would persuade her, would take her away, to someplace safer, to a place where no one could ever reach her again. Late in the day, the slanting sun cast a honeyed glow across the porch. Inside the modest house, Diep busied herself gathering a few familiar belongings. The phone rang. It was James. His voice over the line was gentle yet resolute, like a promise that needed no elaboration. "I'll come for you." When his car pulled up to the gate, Diep stepped out, her eyes soft, her heart fluttering. She trusted him, not because of words, but because of the way he had always quietly stood beside her whenever she faltered. Along the road back, James glanced at her from time to time. She remained silent, her face turned toward the mountains and fields slowly fading behind. The narrow paths, the ripe lychee groves, the pond, the rooster's crow at dawn, all of it seemed still close, tugging at her steps. That evening, they arrived at a simple home nestled in the calm of a village. James's uncle, a kind-faced man in middle age, welcomed them with a warm smile. James spoke softly, asking for his help. His uncle nodded without hesitation, as though he had already considered Diep family. In the cozy wooden house, Diep sat by the tea table, quietly taking in her new surroundings. The scent of wood smoke seeped through the cracks, the laughter of children floated in from the yard, and a lantern flickered at the eaves. All of it evoked the memory of a home, the kind she had once lost, and was now slowly beginning to find again. James stood nearby, his eyes resting gently on her. He knew. Her heart still longed for the farm, the place that had been her refuge, the keeper of her hardest days. But that was why he cherished this decision even more, because all he wanted was for her to be safe, to be loved, without having to bear another burden. Night fell gently over the porch of the old house. A quiet bulb cast warm golden light, spilling across the three figures standing by the open doorway. In the cool night breeze, every sound seemed to fade away, making space for the sacred stillness of love and shared strength. James placed a hand on Diep's shoulder, giving a gentle squeeze, like a promise that needed no words. He stood beside her, steady and silent, his face still marked with worry, yet his eyes burning bright with trust. Beside them, his mother clasped Diep's hand, her gaze tender and kind, yet filled with resilience. No one spoke, but they all understood. This was the moment they needed one another most. After all the storms, after the wounds that once felt impossible to rise from, what remained was the bond of hands holding on, moving forward together, toward a future unknown, but lit by the hope of togetherness.